All right. So good afternoon and assalamu alaikum once again. So in the last class we talked about different types of unemployment, right? So there was we discussed cyclical unemployment, structural unemployment, frictional unemployment, and even one more type of unemployment which was there, that was seasonal unemployment. Now today we'll talk about how government is able to control all these types of unemployment, because one of the major economic objective of every government is to reduce the level of unemployment which is there in the economy, right? So we did talk about one type of unemployment, that is cyclical, in the previous class, okay, and how government is able to control it. Let's discuss it first again, and then I'll move on to other types of unemployment as well. Let's see. Now, government role towards the causes of unemployment. So, first one we discussed in the last class, that was cyclical unemployment. So, one way is that government needs to avoid substantial swings in the cycle. The second point was government tries to achieve low inflation. And the third is government tries to maintain competitive rate of exchange. Okay, we although we discussed that, but I want it to be explained in detail. So for that, I have actually prepared something for you. So let's discuss that, how these 3 points are related to the action of the government to control cyclical unemployment. Let's see that how government does it. All right. Now you can see this. So I'll start from the graph which is on your extreme left, right? So there is a graph there. You can see that this graph, okay? And you are already familiar with that graph, right? So on y-axis, I have taken GDP in percentage, and on x-axis, I have taken time. So with the passage of time, what happens that GDP in percentage starts growing. This is what we call economic growth. You know about it. That every year the country is able to produce more than what they were able to produce earlier or in the previous years. So we say that there is economic growth there in the economy. So economy moves upwards. But do remember, when we say economy moves upwards, it means in terms of GDP, in terms of employment, in terms of investment, right? In terms of prices as well, because when economy is experiencing economic growth, there will be inflation as well. We'll discuss about it, but later. Okay, then you know that we discussed after the growth phase, there comes boom. Okay, and boom is at, you see that economy is at its peak, where profit is at its highest level, investment at its highest level, prices they are also very high, so inflation is very high there, employment is there as well, but now there is an environment of uncertainty, because now prices are so high that now the investors they start thinking that now people won't buy. Why? Because there is high inflation there. So because of that, lack of confidence leads to recession. Because now what do they do actually? All businessmen, they stop their production and wait for the people to buy it. So what happens actually? When they stop their production, they ask certain employees to leave, because right now they are not producing more quantity, because they are waiting for the people whether they'll buy it or not, because inflation is high. So they are thinking people may not like to buy because they may not have the same purchasing power there because of high inflation. So what happens that unemployment starts appearing, right? So when unemployment is there, So it means now people have lower purchasing power. Why? Because they have lost their jobs. So when they have low purchasing power, they will buy less, resulting in lower aggregate demand. So eventually, you will find people who might not be buying more of goods and services because of low income. So the businesses will further reduce their production level because of that. So basically, it starts from lack of confidence from business side. All businesses, they think that way, that now people won't buy. So when they ask people to leave, it causes unemployment, and unemployment leads to lower purchasing power of the people and resulting in lower aggregate demand.
सर सबा इज आस्किंग कि ऐड कर लें उसे प्लीज.
Okay, all right. So it brings the economy to the phase of recession. Okay, and then further, when economy, the output goes negative. Now do remember, so this is, and the lowest point which is achieved by the economy, we call it slump, right? This is the worst situation an economy can experience. And after that, if government interfere at the right time, the economy is able to recover from that slump. Otherwise, without government intervention, it's just not possible. Do remember, when there is slump there is high unemployment, businesses are not um, thinking of expanding at all. In fact, many businesses, they are about to close down. So now you need some kind of impetus from government side. So what government does? Government starts spending on different projects. When government starts spending on different projects, so obviously employment increases. For example, business starts development projects, and for that government requires people to be hired. So again, employment increases, income level of the people goes up, higher, leading to higher purchasing power, and in that way aggregate demand starts rising, and businesses, they start producing more in order to satisfy that growing demand there. So the economy comes out of that slump. But this is only possible if government takes timely action. Government needs to be vigilant and efficient, and government needs to have sufficient amount of money with them. If they do not have it, how can they start different development projects when there is slump there? So the only way to get out of slump is government action, and more precisely government expenditure on different projects. Okay, all right. So this is trade cycle, right? Now, so we were talking about cyclical unemployment. That's why I explained that again, this concept, trade cycle, right? Now, in order to avoid cyclical unemployment, what government does and what would be the impact of it? Let's discuss it now. Okay, so if you see the yellow box right at the top, it's written effect of government action to avoid substantial swings. Now, if you see the old graph, which is shown by the black line, color, so you can see that yes, there are substantial swings there. Like after growth, again there is a big swing, and there is a recession there. Then it goes to slump, and then again there is a swing back to recovery. So government wants to avoid those substantial swings. So in that way, government will be able to avoid huge unemployment in the country. So for that, whatever government does, what government does? Government actually lowers the pace of economic growth. Now, if you see the red line, okay, on the graph, you can see that now it is the same trade cycle, but now the pace has been lowered by the government. And for that, government uses different tools. One of the tool is government can impose higher taxes, right? Why government does it? Because if the pace is very fast, so economy will soon reach to boom, and eventually recession will start, and then there will be a lot of people unemployed, and government won't be able to hire them anywhere. Government cannot accommodate such a large number of people being unemployed. So for that, government lowers the pace of economic growth so that those substantial swings do not happen, right? So if, for example, few number of people are unemployed, still government is able to accommodate those people by hiring them in different projects. So this is one way government can control cyclical unemployment, because if recession comes all of a sudden, then government won't be able to control it at all, and lot of people will be unemployed, and they will remain unemployed for a certain time period. Okay, this is one way government can control it by avoiding substantial swings. I told you, if government lowers the pace of economic growth, obviously it is less likely that there will be substantial swings in the economy. All right. Similarly, if you see now uh, the arrow right after that yellow box at the top, so you can see low inflation, another step taken by the government. Government goes for low inflation. Government wants to maintain low inflation in the economy. And for that, and why government wants to have it, how it is linked with controlling cyclical unemployment. So let's discuss first what is economic growth, although you know about it, but I want to explain it precisely. Now, if you see, economic growth is characterized by one, increased inflation, number one, second, increased employment, number three, rising investment, number four, rising GDP. It's quite obvious. The relation is true. Like when you know that when there is higher aggregate demand, all of the people, they are demanding goods and services. So what will happen? Obviously, inflation will start rising. Okay, when inflation will be there, prices will go up. That will give an indicator to businesses to produce more, because higher prices means now businessmen can get more profit out of it. So in order to produce more, they will hire more people. So it will lead to increasing employment. And in the same way, because they will be getting higher profit, businesses would like to invest more, because when there is inflation there, businesses feel this is an ideal situation to produce and sell, because prices are rising, they can get more profit out of it. And eventually when investment is there, so higher GDP takes place, and that leads to economic growth, right? So this is actually the relation or the features which are there in economic growth. Now, so government wants to have low inflation. Why it happens? Now, if you see the arrow right after low inflation, the down arrow, and you can see the yellow box on your extreme right side. So I have written high inflation may eventually lead to deflation, and hence recession is experienced. Now, what does it mean? For example, if there is economic growth going on, I told you, see the first point in economic growth, that is increasing inflation. So it means the most visible feature which is there in economic growth is high inflation. So if government won't control the inflation, what will happen? Prices will keep on rising, and the time will come when people won't buy, because now the goods are very expensive. So when people will stop buying it, there will be fall in aggregate demand, and then recession will start, because now prices will start falling, because now there is no demand. So businesses have to reduce their price to sell the items which are there in their inventory or stock. So deflation will start, and deflation is one of the sign of recession. And when recession starts, you know that there will be cyclical unemployment. That is why government always wants to avoid high inflation, because it may eventually lead to deflation, and then recession will be there and cyclical unemployment will prevail there. So government wants to control inflation. Now, to control inflation, again, what government can do, government can increase the rate of interest or can increase the direct tax. We have already discussed that. When higher interest rate will be offered by banks, people would like to save more, right? They won't like to spend because they are getting a higher return from the banks. So when they save more, so obviously there will be fall in aggregate demand. Why? Because now there is less consumption by the people. Similarly, people won't borrow as well. Why? Because now they have to pay a higher interest rate back to the bank, right? So cost of borrowing is high. So people won't borrow. So when people won't borrow, they won't spend as well. Again, aggregate demand will go down. So this way, government will be able to control inflation. So they will keep the inflation at a range where they call it low inflation, so that cyclical unemployment can be avoided. Similarly, the third action which can be taken by the government to avoid cyclical unemployment or substantial cyclical unemployment. So what government does now, if you see the box right there at the bottom, comparative exchange rate is maintained, as higher exchange rate may reduce the demand for exports, leading to recession. I wrote that. Now, government wants to have a competitive exchange rate. Why? Because, for example, if exchange rate goes up of a country, this is what we call exchange rate appreciation. And we did discuss that in the other class, right? You can see my lesson on my YouTube channel as well regarding exchange rate stability if you are not clear still. So, if, for example, exchange rate appreciates, so what will happen? It will have a negative impact on exports. You know that. We discussed that. Because now people from other countries, they will find it expensive to buy from our country because our exchange rate is going high, going up. So exports will be expensive for other countries. So they stop buying it. So when they will stop buying it, obviously exports is also part of aggregate demand. Do remember that, because they buy our goods, right? So it will have an impact on our total demand of the country. So it will go down. So when demand goes down, you know that what happens. When demand goes down, it has a direct link with deflation. So prices start falling. So again, what happens? Recession occurs. Because whenever prices fall, producers are discouraged. Investors, they are discouraged. So they stop producing more. In fact, they try to reduce their level of production, which results in lower level of GDP overall in the economy, leading to recession. So that is why government wants to have a comparative exchange rate. It should not go up or low. So I have explained you one of the side of it. So I think that is sufficient to develop your point. Now, up till now, any question I can answer you? If you are not clear about this concept, anyone? So it means all are clear? All right, great. So let's get back to the original slide now. Now you will be better able to understand that. Now, see, one of the steps which government can take, that is to avoid substantial swings in the cycle. I told you how government does it, by lowering the pace of the economic growth. Then by achieving low inflation, because if there is low inflation, obviously the economy won't reach to the top quickly. Or if there is low inflation, obviously there are less chances of deflation. Because once there is high inflation, eventually high inflation will be unaffordable for the people and people will stop buying it, resulting in deflation and recession. And third one was to maintain comparative rate of exchange. I just explained you that why government wants to maintain comparative rate of exchange to avoid cyclical unemployment. Because cyclical unemployment always occurs because of recession. So any factor which causes recession to occur, government needs to control that factor. Okay, now next is structural unemployment. And we did discuss about that as well. This is about when the demand, there are structural changes happening. It means that now demand is changing, taste of the people are changing, new technology coming in. So now demand for certain products has gone down. So those industries will close down. And people who are working over there, they will leave their jobs as well because of structural unemployment. So what government does for it? Government encourages technological development. So it means if there are certain industries which are not supposed to follow that technology or adapt that technology, government needs to encourage them for that, so that structural unemployment should not happen. For example, if new technology comes in and one of the industry is not using that technology, for example, let's say IT. So if IT is not being used by a certain industry, obviously the demand for their products will go down because people want to use the latest technology. Doesn't matter whether it is information technology or product technology or technology to use a product, for example, cell phones or laptops or other electronic gadgets, even car. So government encourages technological development, and because of that, structural unemployment won't occur, or maybe government will be able to minimize the effect of structural unemployment, because structural unemployment occurs because of introduction of a new technology. So people are switching to it. For example, now I gave you the example the other day as well about PTCL. Now PTCL, people are moving from PTCL to cell phones, right? Now majority of the phone calls you make or you receive, that is through your cell phone, right? So PTCL is not being used these days. The use is not that common now. So now if they use new technology in PTCL, that now you can make a video call as well, or you can use an internet using your PTCL. Now it means it will be more in use then. People will start using PTCL more, right? So in that way, demand for PTCL will not go down. And people who are employed in those industries which are responsible for making those phones, they will remain there, okay, and they won't lose their jobs there. So this can be done, and government needs to encourage such industries. Then we have provides training and education. Again, I told you earlier, the example I gave you the other day, that for example, a person who worked there for 25 years in the same industry, now industry is closing down because now there is a new technology, and the industry is not going to use it, and the industry asks the certain people or workers to leave. Now that worker who actually used to work using old practices, old technology, is not trained in using new technology. So if government provides training and education to the people who are now unemployed because they do not know how to use a new technology, now those people can become skillful in using that new technology as well, if government provides them the training and education which is required to use that technology. So in that way, again, unemployment can be reduced as far as structural unemployment is concerned. Similarly, frictional unemployment, we did discuss that as well. When a worker leaves one job in order to find another job, so the time period in which the worker is unemployed looking for a better job, we call it frictional unemployment. Now, so what government can do for it? Reduction in unemployment benefits for those who are taking more time in switching jobs. Now you know that in all welfare states, I told you earlier, either it is Denmark, Sweden, Canada, England, you know that if people are unemployed, government takes the responsibility of providing funds to such people to meet their basic necessities. And that is what we call unemployment allowance or job seekers allowance, right? So government keeps on giving them a certain amount of money till they get their job. So now what happens, actually, there are certain people who do not like to do job, okay, and they think that, okay, if government is paying us money, what is the point of doing a job then? We are fine getting money from the government without doing anything. So so it may increase frictional unemployment if people start thinking that way. So in order to reduce that frictional unemployment, what is done by the government? Government reduces the amount of unemployment benefits. Now when there is a cut in the total amount which is given to the unemployed people, now people will start looking for jobs seriously. Previously they were not serious because they were getting a reasonable amount to meet their needs, but now because there is a cut in the amount which they receive from the government, so now they will start looking for the job seriously. So this is how, and it will lead to reduction in frictional unemployment. Okay. Any question up till now? Who is not clear about how government is able to reduce different types of unemployment? Any question? Nobody is asking. Even either, so it means you are clear now. Okay, great. If you are, so let me ask somebody. Fazan Ali, are you clear? Fazan,
Yes, sir.
any problem?
नहीं सर, समझ आ गई है.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, now our next topic is, okay, and I told you that now our next class will be on next Thursday because this is the last class before the Eid holidays. Because Eid holidays starts from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That is, I think, the holidays. And Wednesday the classes will start. But I do not have any class on Wednesday with you. So Thursday will be the day when we'll join together. Okay, costs of unemployment now. What are the disadvantages which um which are caused by unemployment? Let's look at it. Fall in GDP. And now, because it's quite simple, so I'll ask you people to develop these points rather than explained by me. So let me ask from you. Danish Hussain. Danish, can you explain this point? Fall in GDP is one of the disadvantages of unemployment. How? Danish Hussain?
Yes, sir. Just
Sorry, come again. Danish, are you there? I
सर
think I
जब जी जी
जी जी
सर जब अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट होगी तो हमारा जीडीपी फॉल करेगा क्योंकि वर्कर्स के पास जॉब नहीं होगी तो जिसकी वजह से वर्क वगैरह नहीं होगा तो इस वजह से
absolutely very good. It means when there is unemployment, it means that people are not working. People are not contributing towards production of goods and services. They are sitting idle. So it means if majority of the workforce is idle and doing nothing, so obviously it will have a negative impact on GDP because labor is one part of factor of production. You know that. So if one factor of production is not being used, so obviously it will have an effect on GDP. So there will be a fall in GDP. That's right. And fall in GDP, can anybody extend it further? Anybody? Okay, let me ask. Fatma Shakil. So when fall in GDP will be there, what will happen?
सर इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ नहीं होगी कंट्री की.
Okay, all right, great. Economic growth won't be there, and then people won't be able to satisfy their needs and wants because enough goods are not available in the country. That's right. So we can extend it in any way. And if there is unemployment, it means government won't be able to collect taxes from the people because tax cannot be collected from unemployed people. So eventually there will be a loss of government revenue which comes in the form of taxes. So when there is a fall in tax revenue received by the government cannot spend on public expenditure. So obviously it will have a drastic effect on infrastructure, transportation, communication, power projects, right? Because government does not have sufficient amounts of funds. Okay, then we have tax revenues used in the shape of unemployment benefits. So again, there is another point there, and that is, let me explain that because it's quite easy. That you know that out of the tax revenue which is given to the government by the people or by the businesses, some part of it is given to unemployed people, right? Who are able to meet their needs even if they are unemployed. But when there are lots of people unemployed, so obviously, as I told you earlier in the first point, that there will be fall in tax revenue. Then, and you know that to give funds to unemployed people is is of top priority, because first of all you need to stop people from dying, especially if they are dying from hunger, right? So it means government, because there is reduced amount of tax revenue, major portion of that tax revenue will be used to provide funds to unemployed people in the form of unemployment benefits or unemployment allowance. So it means then sufficient funds might not be available for the government to do something else, like I told you, for the public welfare. Now, social evils, I explained that to you as well, and I want somebody to answer. Abdullah Vas, please explain.
जी sir, sir, when unemployment rises, so sir, people need money in order to fulfill their necessities and wants. So sir, social evils such as robberies will increase as people will start stealing in order to fulfill their wants and necessities.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Very good. So social evils also includes corruption as well. So obviously, and the cases of robbery and dacoity, they will increase as well, as Abdullah has explained it. Okay. So and it when it will happen, it will earn a very bad name for the country. And those foreign investors who might be planning to invest in that country may stop doing it, because they think their money might not be safe in that country. Or the people who wanted to visit that country to set up their business over there, again they will hesitate to do it because of that bad name earned by that business because of social evils. Bad name earned by the economy because of social evils. Fall in demand leads to fall in profits. Again, it's quite easy. Huh? Why fall in demand? Because there is unemployment. People have low purchasing power. So lower demand means lower prices, because businesses have to reduce their price, leading to fall in profits as well. So it will have an impact on businesses. So either businesses will reduce their quality of products, right? Or they will close down their business, or they will reduce their level of activity. So if they reduce the quality of the products they produce, again it will have a negative impact on the living standard of the people, because now people have, there is no other option except to buy that low quality item, because businesses are not producing high quality items, because there is none who can afford that high quality item at the price which is desired by the business. Okay, then increased tax burden on employed people. Now, how it is so? So let me ask this question as well. Sabah Rashid, Sabah, can you explain this point? How there will be an increased tax burden on employed people because of unemployment? Sabah, are you there?
Sir, I don't know.
You have no idea. Okay. Shahir Amir.
यस सर, जब काफ़ी सारे लोग अनएम्प्लॉयड होंगे तो जो उनसे रेवेन्यू टैक्स नहीं ले सकेंगे वो फिर एम्प्लॉयड लोगों से लेंगे, और उनके लिए भी हमें चाहिए होगा जो अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट को बेनिफिट के लिए जो टैक्स देते हैं वो फिर सारा एम्प्लॉयड से लेंगे.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Shahir. Very relevant. So now you know that to run a country, a lot of money is required. Okay. So it doesn't matter whether people are employed or unemployed, government has to spend on daily basis to run an economy. There are various government departments, right? And there are lots of costs involved to run those departments. Okay. So it means if there are more people unemployed, still the same amount of expenditure government needs to spend, right? For that, a certain amount is required, which is not there, because now there are lots of people unemployed. Government is not able to collect enough amount of tax from them. So now government will increase the tax on those people which are employed. Although this is not justice, but still there is no way out. Government has to increase the tax rate on the people who are employed. So now the people who are getting the same income, now they have to pay more taxes. So it means their disposable income will go down. I told you what is disposable income. That is the income you get by paying tax. or after paying tax. So those employed people will also be discouraged that this is not our fault if people are unemployed. Why government is collecting more amount of taxes from us? So this will discourage them and they might leave the job as well, causing more unemployment there in the economy. Okay, similarly, frictional unemployment may cause a business to become inefficient. So I want again somebody to answer. Tuba, please help me out. For example, if unemployment which is there, it is frictional in nature, right? How it may cause a business to become inefficient? Tuba Nasir.
सर बिजनेस की प्रोडक्टिविटी गिर जाएगी क्योंकि काम नहीं हो रहा होगा
Why?
क्योंकि
Why?
वर्कर्स नहीं होंगे
Tuba, remember, I told you productivity is something different from production. So if workers are being unemployed, it does not mean that the workers who are in the employment, they will stop their production or they will start producing fewer items because productivity is linked with output produced by one worker. So how it will go low if there is high unemployment? Yes, Tuba. Tuba, please speak up.
सर इतना क्लियर नहीं है ये
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Any volunteer who can explain this point? That for let me rephrase my question. For example, we are talking about the disadvantages or costs of unemployment. So let's say there is unemployment which is frictional in nature. Okay, how it can cause a business to become inefficient? This is my question. Any volunteer who can answer this question? No one? I think Aisha Siddiqa wants to answer. Yes, please, Aisha. Go ahead. Aisha, please. Aisha Siddiqa, are you there? Okay, she might have a problem. Fazan Ali?
Sir,
Yes, Abdullah?
sir, I think, sir, जी frictional unemployment जब होगी तो sir, as the business is losing its employees, तो sir जब business new employees hire करेगी तो sir obviously the business will incur some hiring costs. तो sir the hiring costs incurred will decrease the efficiency of the business as such, the profit decrease हो रहा है. और sir जब employees leave कर रहे हैं voluntarily तो जो employees पीछे हैं उनकी motivation भी decrease हो जाती है. तो सर आई थिंक ड्यू टू दी डिक्रीज्ड एम्प्लॉयज मोटिवेशन उसकी वजह से भी एफिशिएंसी डिक्रीज हो सकती है बिजनेस की.
But okay, all right, very good. But again, problem is frictional. Let me finish. Frictional unemployment is basically a voluntary kind of unemployment. Like people leave their job on their own. So it is not a demotivation, but yes, it can be a demotivation. For example, if there are lots of people who are leaving a certain business, the other employees they might start thinking that why people are leaving. It means this is not a good organization. So it may lead to lower motivation among them as well. Although they may stay there in the business, but their motivation will be low down. So it will lead to lower productivity as well, right? And this is what we call inefficiency. So the average cost will start going up. Similarly, when there is frictional unemployment, so every now and then you have to hire more workers. You need to train them, and while training, they can't work. So again, it will have an effect on productivity of the workers because they will start their work late, or if there are new workers who are new to the work practices which are there, so their productivity might not be of the same level which was there for the older workers who left the job. So that is why it lead to lower productivity and lower efficiency as well. That is what we call that the business will become inefficient. Their average cost will start going up. There will be lower output being produced by the same amount of workers. Yes. Yes. Somebody wants to ask a question? Anyone? I stopped someone to ask a question. Now you can ask. Anyone? No one? Okay, all right. So let's finish this. Okay, lower living standard. So it's quite obvious. I think you can explain that because when unemployment is there, the people have lower purchasing power, so they won't be able to buy the goods they actually want. So they have to reduce the amount of goods and services they buy. So it will lead to low living standard. And again, another way to explain is I told you that the businesses would like to reduce the quality of their products because they know that people cannot afford high quality items because they are expensive. So again, it will lead to low living standard as well. Then the longer the unemployment, the more serious it will become as technology changes. So can anybody tell me what kind of unemployment is longer, like which has a long term effect?
Structural unemployment.
Very good, Ali. Ali, what's your full name? Muhammad Ali, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. Okay, because now you have come with the only name that is Ali. Your full name is Muhammad Ali Tara, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, very good. Absolutely right, Muhammad Ali. Thank you very much. Structural unemployment, I told you, is the most dangerous type of unemployment. And why? Because it has long term effects. People might be permanently unemployed because of that kind of unemployment. Because once an industry is closed down because of lack of demand, now do remember, cyclical unemployment means when there is a fall in total demand in the economy. Demand for all the products goes down. But when we talk about structural unemployment, it means demand for certain products goes down. As I explained you the example of PTCL and cell phones. So when an industry closes down, now the person who was working in a certain industry and who had certain level of skills now won't be able to work somewhere else because in other industries different kind of skills are required and the person is not trained for that, or the person might not be able to learn new technology because the person spent, for example, 25-30 years there. Now it's not easy to learn new skills after that. Think about it. I'm teaching business studies, right? So for example, if after 10-20 years somebody asked me to teach maths or accounting, although I did study accounting, but it would be extremely difficult for me again to revise all the courses which I actually studied during my academic career. So that is just not possible. I will simply refuse to teach accounting because it will be a daunting task for me to do it, right? So that is why it becomes more serious in that case.
Sir,
Yeah, so let me finish. If the longer the unemployment, it means now technology changes quickly. So if you, the more you remain unemployed, the more you become unemployed because technology changes quickly and then you won't be able to use that new technology at all. Think about cell phones. If you are using it right now, think about you stop using cell phones for another 50 years. And after 50 years, if you start using a cell phone, you won't be able to do it. I'm very sorry to say. Why? Because now the technology has changed so much that you do not know how to operate that cell phone. Because 50 years is too much, right? Yes. Uh, Talal, please.
सर आपने कहा है कि आप काफी देर से अनएम्प्लॉयड रहे हैं और फिर आपको बिजनेस की जगह कोई आपको अकाउंटिंग टीच करने के लिए कहता है और आप रिफ्यूज कर देंगे, लेकिन सर जब आप इतनी देर से अनएम्प्लॉयड हैं तो आप बस कुछ भी करके आप जॉब को लेने की कोशिश नहीं करेंगे?
You are right. Some people might be able to do it, but what happens? I told you, what happens with your age, your learning ability goes down. Do remember that. So it means at the age of 50 or 55, it's not easy to learn new skills because you do not have the capacity to do it. Like I can tell you, a small child might be able to use a new smartphone. Why? Because the learning ability is great over there. But for a 60-year-old or a 70-year-old using the latest cell phone right now, it's very difficult for him to do it because you know that older people, they take more time to learn skills. So that is why I'm saying that the people, they are not able to do it because their capacity does not allow to do it. so they become permanently unemployed. Talal, got it?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, now, so next objective is balance of payment, but I won't teach it to you because I want it to be explained in the next class because there is a gap. So I do not want you to be in the middle of this concept when the next class comes. So I'll stop here and so have a nice Eid holidays, but do have a safe distance with your relatives to avoid any mishap. So thank you very much. I'll see you in the next class.
Allah Hafiz, sir.